Well, it is just gone 11:30. So thank you to everybody for joining us this morning. So what we're going to be talking about today is basically about creating online courses to help promote your business. So I'm just going to run through what I hope to get through in the next kind of 25 minutes or so. I'm going to run this as a kind of a presentation to start with. If you do have any questions, you've got your little Q&A tab over where the chat is. So if you're thinking of anything, ideally pop them in the Q&A tab and I will come to them at the end. If I don't get to answer them all, I'm going to be in the exhibition booth from 12:30. So you can always pop along and join me in there. So Alan, can you whiz up that slide for me so that I can show everybody what we're going to be covering? So the very first thing I want to talk about is simply why bother to create an online course to help promote your business. I'm also going to talk a little bit about what kind of topic you might want to consider focusing on. Obviously, I don't know everybody's business, so it's going to be very difficult to say exactly, but I can give you some guidelines as to what that might be. I'm also going to cover 5 simple steps to help you start designing your course. And that's because one of the things I do is I help people create online courses. And this seems to be the main sticking point actually for most people is, well, how do I go about designing it? So I'm going to cover 5 elements of that for you. I've got an example of one of my own courses that I have and how I everything that I've talked about previously in the session today, how that filters into that example. And then finally, what I'm going to talk about is just 2 options for where you could potentially host your courses. There are lots of different options, but I'm just going to cover off 2 which are quite different from each other. So that's what we're going to hopefully get through. Okay, Alan, let's have the next slide. Yeah. So just a little bit about why bother listening to anything that I have to say. What you can see on the screen here are some of my own online courses. And these are all to do with the fact that I'm a learning development professional. I do lots of train the trainer sessions. And this is all about using Lego in those training sessions. So I do this as a way of helping trainers to use Lego for themselves. So that's some of the courses that I have. Alan, if you can click again for me, the other set of courses that you can see here are specifically related to what I'm talking to here today. So I help and mentor people to get their own courses up and running online. And so they're just a few of those courses. And those little they look like awards, don't they? Look like I've given myself lots of awards there. But basically, that's just the professional qualifications that back up everything. I've worked in learning and development for over 20 years. I've worked online for the last 6. And a lot of this is, I come at this from a learner's perspective. A lot of times when you're talking to other people about creating online courses, they tend to come to it for a very technical way of looking at things and about, doing X, Y, and Z. I look at this from a learner's perspective, and the reason why I do that, not just because of my background in learning and development, but because when learners go through your courses, especially if you've got more than one, if it's a good course, they will buy more. If you're just doing it to create something and you're very much in the mind of, how can I technically do this, then your mind isn't necessarily in the right place. So that's hopefully why you'll take on board, hopefully, some of the stuff that I've got to say. Alan, let's have the next slide. All right. So why bother? Why bother to create an online course to help promote your business? Alan, if you can bring up the first one for me, please. This is the one that I think most people would recognize is it's a way of increasing your revenue. For most of us who have got our own businesses, we look for lots of different ways of doing it. I've been listening today about creating podcasts and being, thinking about creative ways of doing stuff, or going on TikTok. I've been in there listening as well. And this is another version of that. It's another way of being able to get your message out there, but ultimately about creating some extra revenue as well. Alan, next one, please. Okay. This is another reason for it, but it's about confirming your credibility. So we all have probably more than one thing that we offer, and we're always told to kind of niche down into those things, which is easier said than done sometimes. So one of the reasons why you saw all those Lego courses that I run is there's lots of people out there. If you go and search Lego Serious Play, which is a course that I provide as well, there are lots of people out there offering that as a full accredited course. But if I've got an online course that people can dip into first before they come on to a full workshop, then it helps them to build that know, like, trust. So it's helping me to build that and increase my credibility in their eyes. So the next one, then please, Alan, is sharing foundational knowledge. If you have something that you sell, whether it be a product or a service, there may well be something that is a lower level that you can create a course about that intrigues them to buy that fuller that fuller package. So I've already mentioned about that learning with Lego courses that I run. A lot of those I then market out to corporates. So my aim is to get the head of a training department somewhere in a big corporate to hire me for the day to go in and actually train their trainers. And I can make way more money out of that than I can do from selling a single online course. So sharing that foundational knowledge can lead them to buying the bigger end product. Okay, and the last one on that slide, please, is all about creating a shop window. So when somebody comes onto my website, they will see all the kind of things that I do, but they will also then see, oh, look, and there's an online course about that. And then there's an online course about this. And actually, there's a series of 4 about this. And so that shop window becomes more expansive. And what I can also do is I can change my shop window just like actual shops do. With seasons, I can bring things forward to promote that for this particular month, or push it back so that that's more in another season. So it creates a bit more of dynamic around presenting yourself to the outside world. So they're just 4 reasons for considering creating an online course. So then the next stepping stone is, okay, I'm interested. I might want to create something, but actually, what do I focus on? And like I said at the beginning, I can't answer that specifically for you, but I can help you to think about how you might drill that down. So I want you to imagine that you are walking into a bookshop. Okay. Now I use bookshop and then I think, well, we're talking about online courses and that's all digital and that sounds a little bit off kilter. So bookshop or shopping online, either of these works, but I'm going to stick with the bookshop analogy for now. So the very first thing when you walk in, you will probably have something in mind and you will go to that section. So Alan, if you want to bring up the next thing for me, we're going to just drill this down. So the section I might go to is self-help. I don't think they call it self-help anymore. I think they call it self-development. Never mind. We know what we're talking about. So I might go to that particular section. Within that section, there will be a subsection. There'll be something that drills down slightly more. And in this case, it's mindfulness. Great timing, Alan. You're doing really well there. So in this case, in our self-help section, we might be drilling it down to mindfulness. But even mindfulness is a huge area to cover. So what I want to do is I want to look at, well, what could I specialize? What's my speciality within that? And this could be around, thank you, 5-minute meditations. So if that kind of self-development or wellness or well-being or anything is a topic of yours, you're just looking to drill that down into thinking, well, what's my section? What could be my subsection? What could be my speciality around it? Particularly if you're doing something like sharing foundational knowledge or increasing credibility. I would always suggest, if you've never done an online course before, you start with something small. I deal with a lot of people who want to create a program as their first ever online course. And it's not something I would recommend, because the very first time that you do something, you're learning from it. Just like when, I don't know whether you guys were watching Danielle talk about her TikTok things, and she had 4 different things before she kind of really nailed it. It's exactly the same with online courses. You're learning as you go. So another example of this then, so we've got walking again, we've got cooking maybe as a full-on section, subsection within that might be family feasts, and the speciality within that could be tasty meals for teenagers. So you can just see how we're drilling it down. Alan, there's 3 more things on that particular slide, so if you can bring those up. And again, this is just relating to my own area. So my section is learning development, my subsection is creative learning. The speciality that I'm walking you through today in order to explain all of this is an introduction to Lego Serious Play. So have that in mind when you're thinking about your topic. So let's have a look at how you might go about designing then. I'm trying to cram an awful lot here into about 25 minutes. So there are some things that I'm going to miss out, but this should give you the backbone for things. So the very first thing is to start with the end in mind. If you want to bring up the rest of that slide, please, Alan. There we go. So ideally what you want to do is you want to be thinking about, what do I want my learner to have achieved by the end of the course? Not how am I going to start it? What technology do I need? We're nowhere near that yet. What do you want them to learn by the end of the course? And I tend to write down a sentence that has that particular line in it. By the end of this course, you will be able to. Now, that's a trainer's phrase when we're writing outcomes and objectives. Some people prefer to use terminology like the promise I make to you is... Yeah, you can use whatever terms you want, but ultimately you are writing down that at the end of this session, somebody is going to be able to achieve something. So what actually is that? So that is your starting point. Once you've got that, then the next thing, and you can see we're kind of keeping with our book theme here. The next thing that we're looking at is, well, what are the chapters within that? So if you're a very visual person, then this is where your post-it notes really come into play. You've got your main idea about you want to do, and now just write down everything that they're going to need to know on good old post-it notes, and then work out what order it's going to go in. A lot of people try and write it in order, but the idea is just to brain dump it down and then organize it. But you're looking at chapter headings, so these are big titles of things. Okay. All right. Alan, if you're still there, wonderful. Thank you. So this is the next one. Create a compelling storyline. And this is about thinking not just about your course, your whole course as being a story, but each of those chapter headings as being a story in its own right. You're looking for a beginning, a middle, and an end. So ideally, you'd want some kind of introduction, something that demonstrates the main topic, and something that either summarizes or pulls them into the next section. When you start to look at stats for online courses, you will see that a lot of people start courses and don't finish them. So what you want to do is you want to be able to think about, well, how do I create it so that they finish the course and are looking for either your next online course or looking how else they can interact with you. What I have also at the end of a lot of my courses are signposts to say, go and look here for more courses, or let's do some one-to-one mentoring. So just in exactly the same way that you would do in a social media post where you're looking for a call to action, you have the same with a course, an online course as well. Okay, so our next one then that we have here is, there is more than one way to read a book. So if we're keeping with that book analogy, you know, you could read it, obviously. You could listen to it on an audio. It's probably on YouTube somewhere, somebody doing a snippet of it. So that there are lots of different ways of consuming that information rather than just reading. And exactly the same within your course is to start to think about, well, how will I put this across so that A, it gives some variety, and also B, that there are some different elements to it, just so that if somebody prefers to read, they've got a section there. If somebody prefers to see, they've got a section there. Personally, I tend to keep to 3, no more than 3. Otherwise, it tends to get a little bit more confusing for people. So I tend to do videos, face to camera videos, or what I call hands-on videos. I tend to have PDFs as kind of worksheets. I do use a bit of text and images, and occasionally I use a quiz in there as well, just to allow people to really think about, well, how am I going to, have I learned what I need to learn, and how am I going to apply it? And then the last part of the 5 steps to designing is this one. It's about creating your book cover. If you actually got a book, just in the same way as this image that we've got here, when you open it up, you've got all these things. So you've got an image that's enticing, you've got a title and a strap line, you've got the whole blurb on the back. Quite often you've got people saying how good the book actually is, so they're your reviews. All of these together are the kind of things you want to be thinking about in order to create a landing page. And a landing page is just literally the page that they get to and they decide whether or not they're going to click on that buy now. The landing page is super important. And I would thoroughly recommend having a video on that landing page as well. And it entices people through to actually being able to see it. But I wouldn't create this. The reason why it's number 5 is I wouldn't create this until I am quite a way into creating my online course, because things can chop and change around. You don't want to be creating a landing page and saying how fantastic your course is when you suddenly realize halfway through that you need to go off on a tangent and talk about something else, and then you have to go back and create the landing page again. So in terms of design, they're the 5 steps that I tend to follow. Okay, so let's put this into an example then. So the course that I've been talking about so far is an introduction to Lego Serious Play. In terms of why I created that course, I wanted to share foundational knowledge. Like I said at the beginning, this was around giving people the opportunity to be able to buy it and do it themselves. But actually what I really want to do is to show that I'm a credible person for getting me into a corporate venue and hiring me there. Where am I in that bookshop then? So I'm still in my L&D world. I always will be, but this comes into creative learning and then drills down into Lego Serious Play. And then starting with the end in mind. So the statement that I have in my brain is, by the end of this course, you will be able to guide sorry, I've updated this slide since this one came out, so excuse the slight skew of this. So what it will do is it will guide you through the background, the principles and practical applications of using Lego Serious Play in training, facilitation and coaching. And the reason why I've got those 3 at the end is because they are actually a little different to each other, and I want coaches to recognize that this is fine for them as well as somebody who trains or facilitates. Okay, so that was my statement. That's what I had in mind. So I only actually have 3 chapter headings that I really wanted to cover in this. The first one being the fundamentals. So that's like the background, the principles and the methodology that people can use within this. There's some etiquette in there as well. Skills build activities. So this is something that warms people up to using Lego, and an example of how LSP, Lego Serious Play event, might unfold, because if this was new to somebody, I wanted them to actually be able to see that. I created the book cover and the blurb. I had a video. I had my own images. You can see some of those at the bottom there. And Alan, if you click next, what you'll also see is something that I put together, which was a business case, because people may not buy this for themselves. They may actually want to get the budget holder to sign off on it. So having something like that, a business case on the landing page, was something that I thought was really worthwhile having. Okay. The next section then was all about creating a compelling story. So this was, I had an opening paragraph that kind of talked about why actually use this, which is the next image, please, Alan. And then the last part there, more than one way to read a book. I did face the camera intro, but then camera to hands and Lego. So basically camera down, looking at the Lego stuff, in order so people could see what I was doing. Hands-on demonstrations, worksheets, a bit of text and image in there, and a couple of quizzes. So everything that I've just spoken about, that's an example of how to actually kind of pull it all together. Okay, so now that I've got all this stuff, the question is, where do you host it? Now, I'm only going to talk about 2 specific areas. So the first one I'm going to talk about is a company called Thinkific. Now, Thinkific is a Canadian company. And Alan, if you want to bring up, I think there's 3 bits next to that. Thank you. So it's an online course hosting platform. So basically, what they have is they have a fantastic platform where you can sign up to it. I think you can still get 3 courses on it for free. You're a little limited in terms of being able to offer discounts and things like that. But if you're just starting out, it's a great place to go and check out and try and do. You can create everything yourself. So it gives you tons of control over what you're putting on it. It gives you lots of control over pushing it out to people. And if you do the paid version, you can then either drip feed things, or you can create discounts so you can promote stuff in a different way. So you have a lot of control over that, but you have to do all the marketing for it. They're not a marketing platform. You pay a monthly subscription, but you keep all the profits. The other one that you may have heard of is Udemy. Udemy is different. Udemy is an online course marketplace. And so what they have is they have tons of people that actually come directly to Udemy to just browse and see what courses there are. That they've got a wide audience, but unfortunately you do have less control over your particular product online. There aren't any upfront costs, but the profit that you get is limited. Now, I don't know whether you can see from these particular images, but the top one, which is on Thinkific, I've got that priced at, I think it's about £67. And so when I sell that profit is mine, and minus anything that I've used to promote it. In terms of Udemy, can you see there that it's been marked down to $15.99? So Udemy sell most of their courses at discounted prices. So I think I've still got this one at $69.99 as a full price course. But every kind of couple of weeks, they reduce everything down, and that's where you make your sales. You make your sales, but they take probably about 50% of that, and it's also in dollars, so you have to do a conversion on top of that. So you don't make a vast amount of money on a single purchase, but you will make more sales from it. In terms of your audience, that's the other thing just to consider here, is that Thinkific, because you've got more control over it, if you're going for a very corporate based push on things, I would probably stick with Thinkific. If it's much more of an informal course, then Udemy would be fine. Or if it's a freebie course as well, that would also be fine. They both do the same things, but they have different what's the word I'm looking for? People have different perceptions of what they're getting from those. So they're just 2 options. Okay, so Alan, if you can bring up, I think we've got 2 more slides to go, and we might have time for questions, but if not, you can always find me in the exhibition booth from 12:30. Okay, so this is everything that we've covered today. We've got our why create an online course to help promote your business there. We've got our 5 simple rules. There's 2 more blocks to come up there, please, Alan. And if you want to take a screenshot of this, you're very welcome to. What should your topic be on? And remember that section, subsection, and speciality. And then we've also got a couple of things about hosting your courses as well. Alan, can you just bring up the last slide for me? And then there's a couple of things on there to come up. If this is something that you're serious about doing and you really do want to get started, if you go to curiouslighthouse.co.uk, you will find lots of different things on there, including some freebies. But this particular one is an online course that I run called the Kickstarter program, and there's currently 25% off purely for you guys using that information that you've got there. And in your digital goodie bag, you should be able to find details of that as well. So, I think I've got 5 minutes to spare.
Right, Nikie, I need to dip out. Thankfully, that went through. There is a question from Rue in the chat. So we'll leave you in here for 5 minutes and meet everyone on the main stage in just one moment.
Lovely. Thank you, Alan. It's really appreciated. Okay, so Rue, let me have a look. I love a good secondhand bookshop, stuffed to the rafters with stories and knowledge. I head straight over to the photography section, as there's always, but yeah, absolutely. There's tons of stuff in there. Brilliant stuff. Bridget, I can see you've typed something in the Q&A, so let me have a look and see what you've put there. I'm putting my murder mystery online. Oh, fantastic. Which people will work through and decide who done it. Is it possible to score people on an answer they give? Depends on the platform. But yes, so something like Thinkific, for example, has the option to be able to upload an assignment. Now that sounds quite academic, but all it basically is you are asking them to upload, I don't know, maybe you've got a template or something that they could put their answer in, upload to you, and then it goes straight into your back office admin to then be able to score it, grade it, or let them know otherwise. So if Thinkific has that option, probably other platforms do as well. So hopefully, Bridget, that answers that. Rue, I can see they've put, do you use 3 ways to interact with each course chapter? Not always, but I think it's worthwhile doing. I always use video. I limit the amount of text that I actually use. I think PDFs are good for people to download. My biggest concern is that if all you're doing is putting text on there, not that I expect you would, Rue, but if all you're doing is putting text on there, people equate text with books. You can buy a really decent academic book for less than 30 quid. So why would they pay any more to do it online? So having that different element of things would be really good. Hayley, what's your opinion on non-automated assignments quizzes? Are they guaranteed offline? They are graded offline by a dedicated tutor. Again, it depends on which platform you're using. In terms of Udemy, there's no grading to it at all. It is what it is, as far as I'm aware. I'm hesitating now because I'm talking rubbish here. I think there is a way of doing that, but it's delayed. In terms of Thinkific, that can be graded, and you can also set a quiz pass mark as well. So you can set it as prerequisite, so they can't go any further. So if you're doing something like a certificated course and they have to get 75%, you can say that, and they can't get past it until they've got 75%. I hope that answers that question. Okay. Thank you so much for turning up. We've got about 2 minutes before our Fawcett starts on the main stage area. So head on over there to see Al. Like I said, if you've got more specific questions, I'm going to be in the expo booth from 12:30 for about an hour or so. So I'm very happy to answer any specific questions that you've got there. Thanks ever so much, guys.